All right, what is going on, everybody? Hello. This is episode number 8 of Calibrated Livestream, Calibrated, whatever. Welcome, everybody. We have a few things to talk about today, some map changes to talk about, some global events that are unfolding, some recent statements by presidents that we're going to go over. We got a lot to cover today, so we're going to just hop right into it. When you guys see me look down here, I'm looking at the chat. So whenever, if I'm not looking like at the camera all creepy or anything, that's where I'm looking. But without further ado, let's hop right into the map. Yeah, actually, let me post on Twitter that we are live. Got to do the whole media coverage shit. Got to go over the whole thing. So let me quote tweet it. Here we go. You guys are seeing the magic right here. This is the magic that you don't get to see. We got other stuff going on. Here we go. There we go. All right. So that's up. Let's get into it. Let's head over to the map. Zoom out here. Ukraine. Hope you guys are familiar with it. This is the Caspian Sea for you idiots who don't know where that is. All right. Let's zoom in here. Crinky. In the last live, I covered, I believe, this advance. At this point, this is the entirety of Crinky is basically in the gray zone. We've had rumors of a Russian flag being planted and raised. No confirmation on that right now. But as of right now, basically this whole area is likely in the green zone, or in the gray zone, not green zone, sorry. The green is what Russia currently controls. Last reported, it was just this small little area right off the river. But I imagine by this point, basically none of the urban area right here is controlled by Ukrainian forces. So it kind of brings an end to this whole ordeal. I mean, they're still on these islands technically, but there's no firm landing, nowhere to expand out from. So it's a very difficult area to concentrate troops, to move troops, to keep troops supplied. So this whole thing is just a debacle, honestly, at this point. And I actually wanted to take us over to a post on Twitter that I have. Let's see here. I'm going to move us over in just a second. I'm just looking for it, scrolling through stuff. Apparently, when I post or when I show you guys some of my Twitter stuff, I think that is affecting my YouTube algorithm. So I got to be a little bit careful. Can't show people getting blown apart and stuff. Let's see. Stop screen. All right, here we go. Share screen. It should be this one. Yeah, here we go. All right. So if you guys look here, you can see Crinky. There are over 50 confirmed artillery losses by the Ukrainians in just this area, right? Within this circle, there are 50. So that is an extremely high number of artillery losses. And that is what I was referring to with this being not really so much about the manpower being lost here. Yes, it matters, but it's not as significant just because the area is not really big enough to have a ton of troops in. So it's more like small raids over small supply convoys and stuff. But the big losses are back here. These are the artillery losses that are not being replaced by European or, United States, European countries or the United States. So this is significant. This is the important piece of this Crinky operation, and this is the real failure of the whole thing. All right, take us back over to the map. Sorry about that. I just wanted to show you guys that real fast. Here we go. All right, back to the map. Now we're going to head up here to, let's see, we had a small Russian advance near Novelsky, nothing major, just a small positional change. This kind of goes hand in hand with the developing situation around Pervomaisky. We do have a confirmed advance in this area. It's very small compared to what I have, but the Russians do have control over this dam. So basically, this whole area is more or less in the gray zone with the Russians pushing out in, but then being pushed back by Ukrainian artillery in this region. This southern flank right here of Avdiivka actually has some of the most difficult existing, I guess, for the Russian soldiers because of the number of artillery pieces that the Ukrainians have on this area. It's why there's really not a lot of movement. Like this area is already difficult to move into, but the Ukrainians have a lot of their artillery focused on this area. So that's what's going on there. A little bit of progress from the Russians in that area. And then if we come up here to the north of Bakhmut around, or to the south of Bakhmut around Kleshchivka, you can see that the Russians have expanded their zone of control into this forested area, which is another fortification of the Ukrainians in this area, further expanding the northern flank of this Kleshchivka salient. I don't understand why the Ukrainians are still fighting for this. It's still a part of their, like, not one step back sort of deal. But this area is just miserable for the Ukrainians. They just come in here and drones are just pervasive. The existing in this area for the Ukrainians is very difficult. So I don't know why the salient is continuing to be held open. Same reason the Krinky salient, our bridgehead, was being kept open, just for PR, basically, is my only guess. We do have rumors of further Russian advances, actually from Ukrainian sources around Ivanivsky. They're basically saying that the Russians are now trying to enter the settlement. It's only one field, right? So it's like they get in their armored vehicles and try to come up here. They get pushed back. It's sort of the ebb and flow of this battle. But just the fact that the Russians are trying to enter this small town is significant. I had said that this is one of the areas that's going to fall just because its usefulness now that Bakhmut is gone has kind of run out. It's going to get pressured from down here, which there is also movement in this area. We just don't have exact confirmation, so I'm not mapping it yet. But remember, once the 0506 highway is reached about here, the Russians will gain fire control over the last route into Ivanivsky. And then if any progress is made in this area right here, which as we're seeing progress is being made, it will eventually put Ivanivsky into a very difficult position. One of those difficult decision areas that I had mentioned for the Ukrainians when they had talked about possible retreats, which I now understand is just Ukrainian for we're getting our asses kicked across the map. So when you see the Russians making progress, it's our choice to retreat. The biggest news and update for today is on the southern end of this Seversk salient right here. Or I guess it's not really a salient because it's not really being pressured from the north and the south as much. Like it's a big area, so call it a salient. It's just a half circle. Inside of this area, the Russians have made progress right here. They've captured Vesel after they captured these northern heights. Remember, the Russians are working their way up this railroad. And they're still making progress here daily. It's like 100, 200 meters, but they're making progress here constantly. Once they captured this high ground, Vesel was in the low ground and was just in a very difficult position. So the Ukrainians withdrew. They actually withdrew behind this little river. You can see it right here. It's called a river on the map. I don't really know how much of a river it is. They also claim that this is, or this may be right here. This was a water source. It looks dry and empty to me now. When I look at some of the older maps, they have this water source right here, and then a water source in this area right here, I believe. But it looks empty now. So this is the river. They cross back behind it for more favorable defensive positions. Vesel is now under Russian control. As this continues, you look at this area right here. This is a very, very difficult area to defend. The Ukrainians have a fortification in this area right here. It's not that big. Hold on. Let me restart this. They have a fortification in like this area right here. It's very small. They also have a fortification in this area, somewhere around here. These are not exact. I do not know where these fortifications are. I just know that there's like 3 of them back behind here. And then it's like 1 right here. So this is kind of like the next line of fortifications, and you can kind of see how this whole area, there's like 4 or 5 kilometers behind Vesel and Razdalivka that's just open, and it's just very difficult to defend. Supply is very difficult to keep coming in. So Russian armor is going to work a lot better in these tree lines, around these tree lines, and pushing through these fields. And then to add on top of this pressure that's being put on, obviously we have the Russians trying to push into Sporne. They had pushed up to the top of this area and then had been forced back by the Ukrainians. Sporne and Bilohorivka have been really, really difficult areas for the Russians to push into. If you look at a topographical map of this area, Seversk is on a hill. There's another hill that runs down around here. So and a hill that also follows behind the settlement along this road, which gives really good logistics into Seversk. So this area is kind of poised for a solid defense. There's a lot of hills. There's this river to the north. There's all of this open space. So this really sets up Seversk to be a good defensive position. However, the AFU leadership in this position is also very competent. They've done an amazing job of counterattacking when the Russians push in and really holding this area since about May 2022. So progress in this area is significant for the reasons that I just described. And this is the beginning of it, right? It's this settlement has to fall. Probably Razdalivka has to fall. And then this whole area will eventually start to level out, like sort of around here. And then we had more progress mentioned. I updated my map over here. This progress had not been mentioned. The aforementioned progress is actually this tree line right here. They secured this tree line down to here. However, most maps, other maps are showing this area as under Russian control as well. So I just added that in along this road up to this tree line. Once again, Bilohorivka is, it's very industrial. Like this is I think this is a quarry, I believe. All of the buildings, warehouses that used to be here, you can see even in these pictures, it's a moonscape, have been shelled completely. But there's hills here. So these hills kind of offer a lot of protection for the defending AFU that are pushing or that are holding this area. So while it might look like it's kind of in a salient, kind of difficult, it has a river defending it to the north, and the Russians aren't even pushed up against the river in the forestry, and it's very, very, very defensible. So progress here is also significant for the Russians. That's it for the frontline updates today. I did want to talk about some things that are happening right now. For the Ukrainians, I don't get as much information about what's going on with their mobilization, with their troop numbers. They keep it all very tight and under wraps in terms of where reserves are being moved to and stuff like that. But the Russian sources seem to be a little bit more open, talking about rotations and stuff like that. Something that the Ukrainians actually don't get a lot of is rotating forces off the front line. Whereas the Russians have been rotating regularly. The rotations are now complete around Krasnohorivka, around Marinka, and down here around Soledoki and Novomihайлivka. So be prepared for renewed Russian offensives in this area. You can see how they're pushing out from Soledoki towards Vadyana. And we will see if the Russians can actually cut the 0532. And then as soon as that happens, the reserves that are ready around Ugledar will probably begin an assault on Ugledar. I could see that happening this winter, but also potentially into the spring. So, with all these reserves, the reserves in Seversk have already begun offensive actions, as we can see. I expect the overall front line to begin moving. It won't be fast; it'll be incremental movements, but I do believe that the Russians are about to lay on a lot of pressure. Expect another missile strike probably this week, and then on top of that, massive shelling is probably going to begin around Avdiivka and down here around Novomihailovka. The Russians are also talking about how the Ukrainians now are relying almost specifically on cluster munitions in the Bakhmut area, and they are seeing almost a complete lack of HE or fragmentation artillery rounds in the Bakhmut area, and some people are beginning to talk about a shell shortage just basically across the whole front. We know that the Ukrainians are struggling with shells, but a significant shell shortage where improper shells are being used to target Russian armor or infantry, and it's just not being as successful. So the Russians are actually taking less casualties from Ukrainian artillery, and it's being supplemented by the Ukrainians operating FPV drones. FPV drones are now trying to compensate for the shortage of artillery barrels and ammunition, but it's just not going to succeed in that way. You still need artillery. So that's the front line. I think that's all I wanted to talk about with that. Let me take us back over to the studio. All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Everybody tracking? I know I get kind of tunnel visioned when I start talking about this stuff. I did want to show some things on my Twitter to you guys. Things that I wanted to talk about. I guess I can just kind of move into the situation with Pakistan and Iran. So just to start us off here, guys, I am not an expert on Iran, if you're an American, or Pakistan. I do not have specific expertise when it comes to this. I don't have specific expertise, I guess, when it comes to Ukraine either. I've just been watching Ukraine for over 10 years, focusing on military affairs in the region and stuff like that. So I would say I have some, at least, background knowledge. But in terms of Pakistan and Iran, I don't really culturally understand them as much. I don't follow their internal politics as much. So take everything you hear here with a grain of salt. I'm just going to try to explain it the best that I can. Basically, we had Iran come out a couple days ago and begin striking targets in what I would consider Iran's sphere of influence. So Syria was struck. We talked about that. Iraq was struck. We talked about that. But also Pakistan was struck, and this confused a lot of people. And it looked like an odd move from the Iranians to attack that way when they're dealing with Israel and the United States, as they're really like upfront sort of adversaries. Why are they attacking Pakistan? Basically, what this was, in my personal opinion, was sending a message. The group that they attacked was a small terror group that is positioned in Pakistan. Often attacks Iranian military across the border and stuff like that. So the Iranians struck a camp, I guess you would call it, just basically a place where these people are residing. I don't really know how effective the strike was. When you see all the photos and everything, they only hit civilians. That's what happens on both sides. And then we saw a retaliation from Pakistan on a Iranian terror group that was operating an Iranian terror group that's not being sponsored by the Iranian government, getting struck by the Pakistani government. So it was sort of like a weird, like under the table handshake sort of thing, kind of, it seems to me, where both sides' air defense did not operate on each other's strikes. And they both kind of took out what both sides would consider the trash in the other country. And it was very, very weird to me, the whole situation, because as that's happening, Pakistan and Iran are having naval drills together, and yeah, the whole thing was just very weird, very, very weird. Yes, as Clown said here, I'll put this up. This is very true. Islamabad and Tehran have a history of cooperating to suppress these, I'm not going to say that because I'm going to butcher it, rebels. This is true. And it just seems like a mutually beneficial kind of show of force from both sides. The Pakistanis showed that they have the ability to target with high precision anywhere in the world. Well, within their sphere of influence, not anywhere in the world, anywhere around them. And the Iranians did the exact same thing. This just is kind of what I would what I would kind of call the multipolarism starting to show. Everybody's now seeing that there are power vacuums opening up now that the U.S. is becoming weaker and weaker in places like the Middle East and potentially Southeast Asia. We'll see. That hasn't begun yet. But as these power vacuums start opening up, you're going to start to see cooperation between states and infighting between states. It's not going to be the easiest transition that some of the multipolar advocates want it to be. It's going to be, it has to be difficult, right? You have people wanting power. So that's definitely going to come into the calculus, I guess. Since we're on the Middle Eastern region, that kind of sums up the Iran situation for right now, at least until more developments happen. We'll see. I don't think Iran will respond to the Pakistani strikes. I think it was, like I said, mutually beneficial. So now I want to move over to Yemen. We have some updates on the situation in Yemen. The Americans have continued missile strikes in and around Yemen's capital and around their harbors, trying to degrade their anti-ship capabilities, their ballistic missile capabilities, their drone capabilities. And according to the President of the United States, these strikes are not working. That's what he said today. A reporter asked him, I believe it was on the White House lawn, if he... Actually, I don't know if it was on the White House lawn. Maybe I'm thinking of a different video. It doesn't matter where it was. Anyway, he was talking to a reporter, and they basically asked him, are the strikes against the Houthis working? And he said, well, it depends what you mean. They're not preventing the Houthis from attacking the ships, but we're still doing them. And it's that right there is like the epitome of what I'm talking about when I say U.S. foreign policy is just dog water. Like there's no planning, there's no strategy. They're just going to keep striking targets until the Yemenis stop. That is a horrible strategy, especially with a terror group that has been terror group. The U.S. calls them a terror group now. Whatever your affiliations are, whatever you want to believe. These groups, what they do, if they're freedom fighters or they're terrorists, whatever you get. I'm not making any judgments here. I'm just saying I'm just calling it a terror group. The Houthis, they've been bombed for 9 years by the Saudis. Why would getting bombed by the U.S. do any, change anything? In fact, I think it's beneficial for, Iran, the Houthis being an Iranian proxy, to get the U.S. to continue expending all of its missiles in this region. They've fired probably over 100 missiles by this point. I believe that there's like 3,400 Tomahawks in U.S., in the total U.S. Military stockpile. And a lot of those are reserved for nuclear exchange. So, striking tents in Yemen is not exactly what you want to be doing. Expending air defense missiles that you could be sending to Ukraine or Israel on missiles heading towards ships in the Red Sea. It's just not what you want to be prioritizing right now. But the U.S. is stuck because they're supposed to be this protector of international trade, global trade, and the Houthis are just really, really starting to hit people in the wallet, making these ships go around the Horn of Africa or not going to Israel at all. So the strikes aren't working. The Houthis are going to continue doing what they're doing. The only people benefiting are the Iranians, and nothing is changing for the Americans. It's like a little window into all of the pervasive problems that we're seeing with U.S. foreign policy. It's the same thing that happened in Ukraine. They went in with a plan, right? They had an idea, but they did not have any contingencies when that plan stopped working. They just, for some reason, the leadership in the United States, the people making the decisions, the people making the money, really have this like invincibility mindset where nothing can go wrong for them. And then the second something goes wrong, it's either not their fault or they double down on what they're doing and saying, oh, well, we just need to do a little bit more and then it'll work. They got the gambler's fallacy. So the situation with the Houthis is just, it just is kind of exposing how weak the U.S. is now, particularly in the Middle East, but around the world. They can't even stop a small rebel group in a small country that's been bombed for 9 years from stopping international trade. If that doesn't spell the end of U.S. hegemony, I mean, I don't really know what can for you. What was I going to talk about? I had some more stuff to talk about. Yemen, map, Pakistan, Iran. Let's go into questions. I'm sure you guys have thoughts about what I can talk about. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them up right now. How big are the gains? They're getting there, man. They're getting there. I took a long time off bodybuilding. I didn't get small necessarily, but I got smaller, just relaxed, got focused on my health a little bit. It was necessary. My joints were starting to kill and stuff. So I'm getting back into it though. I hit 315. I'm sorry. I hit 315 for 3 today on incline chest press. I used to be able to do that for like 12. So that's my goal right now, is to get my incline chest press back up, because it's kind of like a indicator for my overall fitness. Sorry to get off topic there. I go to the gym a lot, and some of the people in my Telegram chat know that and talk about it. So, do you think Ukraine can leverage its egg supremacy to use? Here we go. Do you think Ukraine can leverage its egg supremacy to use those shells to compensate for the shell shortage? I mean, did you see how expensive eggs are in Russia? It's almost over, boys. This is it. It's a wrap. Even though I'm paying more for eggs than any Russian is, somehow their increase in egg price, even though it's lower than the U.S., is still crazy. Let's see. Is A50 a hoax? I've been looking everywhere for a rescue mission. I didn't see any rescue operation or recovery operation being undertaken. That is a very, very important vehicle or asset, I guess I would say, to get lost. And the men on board are high ranking and notable. So you would think that there would be some sort of memorials or just some sort of information out there about these 10 or 11 pilots, or 10 or 11 crew member, I guess. But we haven't seen anything. So did it happen? I have no idea. It very well could have. This is not a surprising thing. Ships get hit, planes get taken down. This is not something that does not happen. The AWACS, the Russian A-50 is the biggest plane in the sky, basically. At any given time, it's the most valuable target in the sky at any given time. Also, the Russians have, kind of a history of blue on blue. So Could this have happened? Very possibly. Do we have any proof of it happening? Not that I've seen. Okay. Let's see. Will the war last years or months? Years for sure. I'm sure this will go into 2026. The Russians aren't trying to move fast, and the Ukrainians are going to defend everything until there's nothing left. So, yeah, expect it to go for a little bit longer. Let's see. Why power vacuum is Southeast Asia? There's not a current power vacuum in Southeast Asia, but the U.S. tends to go into places and end up creating these power vacuums. So I'm not saying that it's happened right now, but if the U.S. was to pull out of Southeast Asia, their influence there begins to weaken. You're going to see countries vying for their own self-interest, trying to come up into that spot. Same thing we're seeing with Iran in the Middle East. Same thing we're seeing with Pakistan, India. All of these places are now starting to, expand their reach because they're what you would call a regional power, and they can control their areas and their interests. So you're going to see a lot more small-scale fights as we head in that direction. That's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much. Somebody in the chat just asked about it. There was a small issue that occurred in Iraq today. Reportedly, a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone was downed over Baghdad after taking off from an airport in Kuwait. The thinking is, or I don't know if it was downed in Baghdad, over Baghdad, near Baghdad. I'm not sure. But it was claimed as a Iranian militia group that ended up downing this MQ-9 Reaper. We have videos from the crash site of the drone. I don't know if it's actually an MQ-9 Reaper. It's kind of hard to tell. It's night. Everything's on fire. But it is a significantly sized drone. And then I did see a video of what looked like a helicopter recovery crew coming in to assist in removal of the downed drone. I don't know if they made it in time. I don't even know if that video was related. I couldn't actually see the drone in the video. The helicopter was just hovering over an area that appeared similar to the areas in the previous videos that I had seen. So no one's to say right now. We'll see if the U.S. comes out and admits it, or what happens there. Why are flight crews not provided with parachutes on these planes? Because there's not really ever a need for parachutes. If you get shot down, you get shot down. Like, it's like saying, why isn't there a parachute under everybody's seat on a passenger airliner? Once you start going down, it's kind of hard to exit the plane. So if you get shot down, you're going to be nosediving. Good luck even reaching the door, much less opening it and getting out. You're not Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. It's just not really how things work. Perhaps maybe in the old bombers and stuff like that, you would have like parachutes so that the guys could jump out, but that's because they're usually getting taken down by their engines, getting shot out and stuff like that. Nowadays, you just have an anti-aircraft missile that just rips a plane in half, and then it's over. Let's see. When Wagner attacked the Syria U.S. base, and all of the Russians died, everyone stayed quiet about it. A-50 might be a similar situation. Yeah, but we had evidence of the Wagner situation in Syria, right? We got videos of it right away. We had a bunch of, they denied it. The Russian government denied it, which they could be doing now. But even if the Russian government denies it, there should still be radar signatures. Remember when the Moskva went down, the Russian ship at the beginning of the conflict, I think it was June or May of 2022. We saw on radar both helicopters and rescue vessels out there helping tow the vehicle. We had, we literally had them on a tracking radar thing showing where the Moskva was going. We ended up being able to figure out where it sunk off of that trajectory. So, we should have seen something That's my issue. That's the only reason I have this doubt in my mind. Do you or anyone see the Ukrainians evading conscription, hiding in a full? Yeah, Ukrainians are definitely going to be evading conscription. I think they're losing like something like 3,000 men a day over the border, which is unbelievable. But I wouldn't want to fight in that war either. Let's see. Any more questions? Let's see. A lot of indications that the U.S. Oh wait, a lot of indications that ISIS is a deep state asset. Yeah, any extremists in any of the countries in the Middle East likely either have ties to Iran or the United States in one way or another. Those are the two major power players in this region that utilize those kind of groups. Remember, all of the Syrian rebels were U.S. backed, and as soon as the U.S. support started to back off, a lot of them turned into ISIS, and a lot of them turned into al-Nusra and stuff like that. So, let's see. Oh, the Navy SEALs. I honestly, I like the whole idea of disguising losses to foreign countries as accidents, like plane crashes and stuff. I get that, but sometimes people just drown. Sometimes you're in really, really, really shitty weather conditions on the sea, and one of your friends falls in, and protocol tells you to go in after them, and you're just lost. You're just gone. Right? That just happens sometimes. So those SEALs could have been killed in some mission. It's possible. We'll never know. But it's also possible that there was just an accident. Accidents do just happen. Ospreys do just crash because they're bad planes, bad vehicles, aircraft, helicopter. I don't know. What are they? Aren't AWACS and airliners traveling at altitudes that are too dangerous for people to eject from? Yeah, but I don't know about where the Russian A-50 is flying. I know it has the capability of flying at high altitudes. I don't know exactly what altitude it was flying out when it was shot down. But you would technically, if you're at a high enough altitude, you would jump out. You would get the first stages of like hypoxia as you're falling. You might pass out. But then you should wake up once air pressure starts to rise again. It might be too late to pull a chute. I don't think so. Depends on what altitude you're at, I guess. How would you put the ejection seats in an airliner when it has a roof? Oh man, these conversations right now in this chat are funny. Any more questions? If I miss your guys' questions, the easiest way you can get a question up to me is by like a super thanks or a super chat or whatever they're called. That I see those and I'll answer those right away. So that's another way you guys can support me as well. But don't make sure I don't miss any of your guys' questions. Ask them again too. What do turkeys eat on Thanksgiving? You guys just are not good with the questions today. Turkeys eat grain. That's what turkeys eat. All right. Well, if that's it, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody watching today. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, Telegram, support me on Patreon. If you guys subscribe to me on Twitter, there will be daily videos starting tomorrow for all of my subscribers. Just small updates that are exclusive for the people that are supporting me on there. So I really appreciate that. So somebody just asked questions in the super chat. If you're on YouTube, so not the people on Twitter, the people on YouTube, if you go onto YouTube, you can donate and it'll pop up on my thing, and then I'll answer your question that way. All right. Bye, everybody. Take care. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your week.